Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast Classic. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Classic.
Hey, what's happening?
By classic, I mean we used to do old films, but now we're doing new films, which is Drew has brought a new film tonight. Then we will do a little What'd You Watch? And we're not going to spin the wheel this time because Debbie was the last one. So Debbie is a bit of a wild card. If we have no idea what Debbie will pick.
And that is a wild card.
So I'm sure that'll be
anything.
I'm sorry, Sean and Debbie couldn't join us this evening.
They're not here,
I was
as we can see.
very much looking forward to their thoughts on this film as well. I mean, also you guys, but mostly Debbie.
This very, what is the film you brought, Drew?
So the film I brought, I picked a contemporary movie because a couple of weeks ago, one of us brought Triangle of Sadness, which is also a contemporary movie and up for a number of Oscars, and also equally lighthearted. And this movie is up for a lot of Oscars, and it's called The Banshees of Inisherin. It's written and directed by Martin McDonagh, who has not made that many movies, but they have made quite an impression. And the first movie that he made was that was really a big attention grabber was In Bruges, starring Colin Farrell and Brenden Gleeson. So it's lovely to see them back together again in this movie. And they've nominated pretty much everybody in the cast and writing, directing, and everything. And like the Indian movie that we watched this week as well, this movie is gorgeous. Like really lush and gorgeous and beautiful.
The clothing is gorgeous, and
I mean the whole thing is just
now
sumptuous.
It's a new film, so should we have a spoiler section? And
I think we will have a spoiler section because I think you really need to talk about what this movie is about. I would encourage anybody to see it because it's worth their time. But also, the premise of the movie is very simple. The premise of the movie is there's a little Irish island. It's the kind of place that exists in movies, and it's in the 1920s during the Troubles, the Irish Civil War. And it's one of those little places, like any small town, where there's, 100 people and everybody knows each other and everybody's in everybody else's business. And Colin Farrell and Brenden Gleeson have been friends forever and go to the pub and hang out. And one day Brenden Gleeson's like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And he doesn't explain. He just says, I don't want to be your friend anymore, which is a very simple premise. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, Colin Farrell, both of them are great, but Colin Farrell, I didn't realize this was his first time he'd ever been nominated for an Oscar for acting, and I would have no problem with him winning. His eyebrows alone, like, it's so emotional and it's so real. And the fact that the movie is spun out of such a simple situation and it becomes this very compelling story is fascinating. And that's before it gets really crazy, which is, I think, very Martin McDonagh, because he does things with people that feel very real and they get put into these more and more extreme situations. Just for comparison, he also did, he did In Bruges, and he also did 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbings, Montana, with Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell, and another excellent movie, very different setting, but an excellent movie about people in a small community.
Didn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was great. And Woody Harrelson, like it's really incredible stuff. So, I'm thrilled that we watched this movie. I'd been wanting to watch it for a long time. I just thought it was just a really powerful, upsetting, and beautiful story on a lot of different levels at once. And I would be really curious to hear what you guys thought of it, again, without spoilers, and then we can get into that later. But I am excited that we got to watch something current that was, I think, absolutely worth discussing. So what did you guys think?
I'll jump in. I actually saw this movie in the theater back in December.
Right.
And, I was thinking about it some more, and it is one of those things you mentioned, how it's like one of these little islands that has like 100 people on it and everybody's in each other's business. And I said then, and I kind of going to reiterate it here, is the simple idea that, these islands aren't always these picturesque things that we see in a lot of these films. Everybody's eccentric and all this kind of stuff. Well, in actuality, there seems to be, and especially I thought this came through, there's kind of almost like a soul-crushing boredom that's going on there, And I really like that about this. I thought the woman who plays Colin Farrell's sister is absolutely
Kerry Condon. Yeah,
she was great,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
every actor in this, from the guy who plays and I don't want to use this word, but it's the phrase they would have used, the town halfwit. You're talking
about Barry Keoghan, the son of the policeman. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, sorry to interrupt, but Sean just popped
Wow,
in.
special guest.
Hey,
look
look
who
who's
just
here.
showed
Hey.
up. Hi, Sean.
Well, Sean,
Sean.
welcome.
Hey, I'm glad to be back.
Well, it's good.
well,
We're glad to have you back,
We
Sean.
started up, but you dropped
Yep.
in, and we can keep
Yeah.
going. Chris, what were you saying? And Sean, we're talking about, Drew, what's your movie? I can never
He doesn't want
pronounce
to
it
say
right.
the title.
It's called the Banshees of Inisherin.
I do not want to say it.
Yeah, no, you don't.
And Chris
Just call
was,
it the Banshees if you need
yeah.
to.
Chris, by the way, who spoke a lot on our last podcast,
Yeah.
the Indian Cinemaniacs.
Yeah.
is now
I
gonna do a
hear
lot of-
people have been requesting more.
Well, they've
Very
been
much so.
demanding
They wanna
it. Not
hear his
requesting
what
it,
they wanted.
demanding it.
There's
His
like
voice is
one
missing.
person.
No.
Hey,
No.
one is enough for us.
And it
We
was
don't
his
care.
wife.
Look,
All right,
I
so
mean,
Chris, you had seen this
more
in the
people
movie
ask
theater, you
about
said.
Sean and Debbie, but they still ask about
That
you,
is true.
so.
Chris had
Because they're
seen
so
this
sad
already
about
in the
you
movie
getting
theater.
bullied. Chris, you
I
saw
had
this in the movie theater.
Yeah, I saw this in the movie theater back in December when I was in Chicago, actually, and
Right.
and so long, but it was
Was it a nice sunny day when you went in to see this? Was it were you
no, it was Chicago in December. It was cold.
okay? Good. So good setting for this movie.
Yeah.
Did the audience respond as a drama or a comedy?
It's funny. I think most of them responded as a drama.
Yeah.
And myself included in certain
could
elements.
understand
Well,
that.
let's remind Sean, we're not in spoilers yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not
Right.
in spoiler territory yet.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I felt one of the great things about this film was the setting, was the fact that it is a movie, or it is a setting that is so often not shown about Ireland, that it is a place where, there's that one woman at the shop that just keeps asking for gossip just constantly, because there's no radio, there's no television, they are completely, I think to a certain extent, they're just bored. And so the fact that one man decides he doesn't want to be friends with another man anymore is like the biggest thing to hit that island in a decade, it feels like.
Lifelong friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lifelong
exactly.
friends.
That's the other part of it. They're lifelong friends. And it is really heartbreaking when we kind of get into it, and then things get a little crazier. But yeah, no, this is one of those films where it's definitely a black comedy. I really enjoyed it. And we'll get into it a little bit later. There were a couple of things that I was just like, okay, that strains my belief. Even suspension of disbelief was a little too much there. You know how if you have a really grounded film and then they do something really bizarre, even though they usually say, hey, you can suspend disbelief once.
Like dropping Alien in the middle of the last film we just saw.
Exactly.
Like that.
So I have some comments about that once we get into spoiler territory. But all in all, I think this is a great film. It was, and I remember seeing In Bruges in the theater, and that blew me away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great film. Great
And
film.
while I preferred that one much to this one, mostly because I like gangster stuff.
Yeah.
This was still a great one. And it's funny, those guys have obviously are really great friends. When Brenden Gleeson did Saturday Night Live, Colin Farrell showed up and just did a couple of bits with him on the show, which is always fun to see.
Well, he didn't want to do it. He did not want to do Saturday Night Live. Colin Farrell talked him into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
he
didn't know
wanted.
that.
Yeah, he did not want to do it. He didn't
He
feel
was great.
comfortable doing it. And he was
He was
hilarious.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
All right. I have thoughts, but Sean, since you just jumped in, remember, no spoilers yet.
Well, I understand the film in the sense that to me it played more like a drama.
Definitely.
And I understand it's a metaphor for the Irish Civil War,
Yep.
where
It was very
part of the
subtle the way they
country
did
just
that.
for no reason at all, just suddenly decided it wasn't going to talk to the rest of it and go to war with it. And as one character said, wasn't it easier when we all just hated the English or fought the English? So I understand that's the stepping off point for it. And it's hard to get into it without spoilers, but I love the location. My name is Sean Murphy, for those who haven't been following. I think it might be written. And this is the Northern Ireland story. And my family, the Jordans and the Ruans, are from, County Mayo, so Northern Ireland. And I've been to Ireland and always found it very beautiful. And I enjoyed the scenery. And just watching this movie, it's like, I see why my relatives left. Though I'm sure there's still quite a few of them still there. It's the performances were excellent and endearing, and it's easy to talk about the two leads, but the sister and the
Amazing.
and the eager would-be boyfriend who's looking for a girl the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, he was so annoying, but also so touching as well. The policeman's son. You know, this film had a great deal going for it. And, you know, I've been in a similar circumstance myself where like a friend of 30 something years, a very close friend, just like totally ghosted me. I guess because we ended up on the different sides of a industry lawsuit, and neither of us were the parties. Neither of us were going to. It was going to cost us a cent or gain us a cent. But essentially, since then, totally ghosted. So I understood this film. I understood Colin Farrell's, you know, his attitude.
Mm-hmm.
My other friend didn't. Well, I can't spoil that, but that's my attitude towards the film. And I loved it when the alien came in with the young boys, you know, and they dropped the TV on the other guy's head.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to me, that was great.
Classic. That's good. They had no TVs back then, but okay.
Yeah.
A big rock. John.
So let me preface this by saying, you know, we had a little personal tragedy, so my mind probably wasn't in the right frame of mind when I watched this movie, and it certainly didn't help. I thought the performances were amazing, and I echo what Sean said. I thought the scenery and the cinematography was beautiful. You know, I always say I like to see something I haven't seen before, and I definitely haven't seen anything like that. But this movie did nothing for me. I didn't like the story. I thought it was a downer, and I struggled to get through it. And when it was over, I was like, I'm glad it's over, and I'm never going to watch this movie again. Nothing made sense in this movie to me. They weren't very subtle about the civil war that was happening. You know, they hit you over the head with it. But I just found this movie depressing, dark. It just, and again, I can appreciate the performances. They really were amazing. But I didn't like this movie. It's just a downer. It was just a downer. And like I said, a lot of it didn't make any sense to me. The whole motivation of one character made no sense with what he ends up doing. And that'll be covered in the spoilers. But yeah, this just, as you probably know, this is not my kind of movie.
Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not why I picked it. I hadn't seen it.
No, I know you
before.
hadn't seen it.
No,
But as I watched it, I remember thinking on several occasions before and after the spoilers, John is going to love this movie.
No,
well, I got to be honest with you. When I saw the
picked
trailer, they really highlight the
Yeah.
comedy.
They do.
Yes.
And this is not a comedy,
it's not.
okay?
It's very
There's some
funny,
funny
certain
things
things.
No,
in
I
it.
actually
It's not a
pick
comedy.
movies to annoy John.
Well,
Yes,
here's
that's what
my
I think.
attitude about the comedy aspect. I also found the film incredibly depressing. Thinking about the film afterwards, I'm like, well, you know, it's a comedy. That's why there's some extreme behavior in it. But after the movie, I could appreciate it as a comedy and what they were doing. But when I was in the movie, it wasn't funny to me. You know what I mean? It was just too dark. And I love an Irish film. I love
Yeah.
Hear My Song. I love that. If you ever see that film, definitely recommend it. You know, and there's some Waking Ned Devine. You know, there's so many wonderful Irish films. You know, and
Caddyshack. No, that's not.
Caddyshack.
Yeah, The Wind That Shakes the Barley, another lighthearted Ken Loach.
I want to hear from Ralph. I want him to describe this as delightful.
No, this was not delightful. This was very dark, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I did not like it as much as I liked in Bruges. But that doesn't mean I didn't love this film. This film, very upsetting. And like Sean, I also had a friend who one day we're best friends, the next day completely ghosted.
Yeah.
So I understand Colin Farrell's character's frustration about why you would do this, because I too was trying to reach out to this person, except I didn't go to the extreme that Colin Farrell did. And I eventually get to the point I'm like, okay, there's something that I can't explain. I gave up on that. But for a while, it's very, very frustrating when somebody who, you know, as tight as this, John knows who I'm talking about, but we were very tight. We hung out a lot. And one day he just decided that he didn't want to be friends with me.
And I was there the last time.
And John was there.
I was
And
there.
Did he
it's
say
frustrating. No, just stop. Like,
Was it
all
your dad?
communication. It was not my dad.
Okay, good, because that would have been awkward.
Yeah. So this film resonated with me. Yes. Does it hit you over the head with the symbolism? 100%. But I just and we'll get into, once I'm done, we'll get into the spoilers because it's important that we talk about the spoilers and what went on. But I thoroughly enjoyed this film, and it's not delightful. It's very depressing. It is funny in places, but funny in a way that isn't funny. It's uncomfortably funny. And no character really got out of this film unscathed, including the sister that you're talking about, and the kid you were talking about, and the cop you were talking about. Everybody kind of gets hurt in this film. But having said that, I just thought it was amazing, and it's one of those that I think about. And it may have been because of what happened with me and my friend that it just resonated so strongly that I went for it and enjoyed it. As depressing as it is, I enjoyed it. So, but I think it's better that we talk about it in spoilers because I think it really explains a lot of what's going on. So let's.
Well, I also
that.
think it's good that the movie shows something that is real, which is that a friendship can be as powerful and as important as a romantic relationship.
Oh yeah,
and that sometimes people break up with their friends, or sometimes their friends vanish on them. Like in this case, it was even harder because, of course, he didn't go anywhere.
Right.
There's 8 people in the town.
Right. No, he can't.
Yeah.
He sees
So
him
he
every.
can't,
No,
he can't get away from him.
He had been going to the pub every day at 2:00 with the same person. So
the pub.
Yeah. So
let's get in. Let's do it now. We'll do the spoilers.
Spoiler section.
So
if you haven't seen the movie, turn away.
Come back after you've seen it if you want. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, the extreme measures that Brendan Fraser's character went through to tell this, and the
Brendan
frustrating
Fraser
thing,
is not in this movie. I'm sorry.
He's Tarzan or what?
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson.
They're both up for Oscars this year, but
right. He had that conversation with
Podrick.
Colin Farrell's character. Said, "Look, if you talk to me one more time, if you talk to me, I'm going to cut my thumb off." Right. And this is a guy who, the reason he said, I don't want to be your friend anymore is I'm bored with you. You talk 2 hours about your donkey shit. You're shite on your donkey. I want to learn to play the violin. I want to get better at playing the violin. I want to learn things about art. I want to mean something. I want to have a legacy.
Right.
I want people to remember me. No one's going to remember you. No one's going to remember your sister. No one's going to remember me. Everybody remembers Mozart from the 17th century,
right?
Which the sister
corrected him.
Right.
And so he literally cuts his thumb off because Colin Farrell couldn't stop going and coming to him and say, we're friends. What are you doing this to me for? And he eventually cuts off, I think, 5 of his fingers, right?
Cuts off all his fingers on one hand.
On one hand, because
So
Colin Farrell just wouldn't stop, wouldn't believe that you really want me to stop being your friend. And I think I felt Colin Farrell's character was so upsetting to me that he just didn't get the message. And I understand why. But still, it's like, dude, just stop. Just stop. Leave him alone. Let him be. Get some more friends. Do something. And the only one friend he had was the kid that you were talking about, who left him because Colin Farrell started becoming mean. Colin Farrell's whole point was, why do you have to be mean to people? You shouldn't be mean. And then he started turning mean. And it kind of changed his character. And the one kid that was hanging out with him said, I'm done with you too.
So here's a question. The kid who's hanging out, did he kill himself?
Yes.
Yes,
I think
that's what I assumed.
Yeah. Because his sister
I think
turned him
Debbie
down.
thought, no, he didn't. And someone else we were talking to.
No, he killed himself.
He died
and
at the
his
lake
whole life
that he tried to.
Yeah, his whole life was shame and being sexually assaulted by his father and being treated like garbage by everyone and being creepy and lonely. At the fact that Colin Farrell's sister, Kerry Condon's character, was essentially kind to him was probably the last nice thing that happened to him, and one of the only nice things that ever happened to him. I'm going to ruin his last name. I know it's not pronounced Barry Keoghan, but he is pretty incredible in general, and he is one of many excellent performances in this movie. And the movie is amazing because it works as an obvious, like, it's not obscured at all. It's an obvious allegory for the Irish Civil War and for war in general, but it also works as the personal story that you're watching, and it's as effective at both of those. And I expected to like it, but I thought it was much more extreme than I expected, but it still felt right and it still felt real in what it was about, even if the idea of Brenden Gleeson doing that, level of mutilation isn't necessarily plausible the way the first half of the movie is.
Drew, you said the father sexually assaulted him. I know that he beat him, but where did you get that? Did that come out?
Colin Farrell said that was something that was happening when he was
diddling your
yelling at
son.
him.
He said,
"Oh, I did not.
You're
I guess I didn't catch that."
And that was very clearly not denied. Like, I didn't know that. But that whole thing where it's like, we're going to go steal my father's alcohol while, cause he fell asleep after having a wank. And, that whole thing about, looking at his little brown cock and all this kind of stuff, like this kid had no boundaries because he had no boundaries, because his boundaries were violated. Like, what was he, maybe 20? I mean, his whole life was just being victimized and being treated like trash. And, he was physically gross. Like, he didn't bathe and he was twitchy and he was weird. And, Colin Farrell was nice to him until he wasn't. And that
he
was
wasn't
part of Colin
mean to
Farrell
that
reacting
kid,
to
but
losing it.
he
Well,
wasn't
he
mean to
was.
that
He
kid.
became mean.
He became mean in general.
But I think, that kid was like, okay, well, that'll turn on me eventually.
Right.
Because everybody else does.
He left him before that would happen.
Whole appeal
that's fair.
is that he was a boring guy, but that he was nice.
Yeah.
Right. He's
Essentially,
he's nice.
He was a sweet,
nice
he was a sweet character.
What Colin Farrell had going for him.
Yeah.
But when his ex-friend says, doesn't matter if you're nice, nobody's going to remember who you are 100 years from now.
Yeah.
Being nice doesn't do anything.
Well,
And
see,
that
the
was like-
thing that doesn't get interrogated in that conversation, and that Colin Farrell his character isn't like special needs or anything.
No.
But his character isn't bright enough to have this conversation.
Right.
Who gives a shit if somebody remembers you? That's really the whole thing. Because Colin Farrell's whole thing, without knowing how to articulate it this way, is, but it matters what you do now.
Right.
Like, you're my friend. I'm nice to you. I love my sister. I love you. I love our little town. And he can't explain what the movie is telling you as a reasonable answer to how you live your life. That's enough. And to say you want to have a legacy is one thing. To say you want to have a legacy and destroy the other half of that conversation and throw away people and all that kind of stuff, I don't think the movie thinks that's a good idea. But the thing we haven't talked about is, to me, Brenden Gleeson's character clearly is mentally ill.
Yes.
Right.
And when he gets together with the priest and the priest asks him about his despair and all that kind of stuff, it's clearly he's depressed.
Yeah.
And his depression manifests itself in this behavior and this extremity, and then the really extreme decisions that he makes, damaging he's a fiddler who cuts off his own fingers. I mean, like, that's not what I mean. That's not well.
I mean, it's literally cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Right.
I mean, that's literally
that's what it is.
Those
And
scenes with
because
the
he's
priest
not
were
well.
the funniest ones in the movies. When he was
again,
that was
funny and sad at the same time.
Yes.
And we haven't talked about the one character that the title is the Banshee, the old lady, who's the one who predicted that there were going to be two deaths.
Right.
She didn't say she didn't
two
say
graves.
two people. She said two deaths.
Yeah, two graves.
And like how when she's on the side where her cottage is, and she sees Colin Farrell's sister, and she waves for her to come over across the lake, which would have caused her death.
Well, that's when the sister was leaving with the yellow jacket on and going. And the cop, too, is going over there to the Civil War. He didn't care what side he was. He goes, I'm going over there executing some people. And he says, well, what side do you want? He goes, who cares what side? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's a terrible person. He just likes hurting people.
So anyway, this old lady everybody's trying to avoid her because she is death. She's the one who predicts. And she's throughout. If you watch the last shot
she's a banshee.
The last shot in the film is the two guys walking away from each other, and she's looking at him up from her cottage. So the whole thing. And the other death was Jenny, Colin Farrell's donkey, who he adored. The sister would never let it stay in the house, and he wanted it in the house. And then, and his friend didn't kill him on purpose. He threw his fingers at the door. The donkey eats the fingers and chokes on the finger.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like so depressing.
No, it's horrendous. And Jenny died the day that the sister left.
Yeah.
So that was going to be the first night that Colin Farrell was going to have his friend Jenny in the house like he always wanted.
Yeah.
And it just, the way that everything lines up, and it gets more and more awful and more tragic. Yeah. But to me, that is one of the most important parts of the whole movie. And as I was thinking what I'm about to say as I was watching it, and then the end of the very end of the movie sealed this for me, that it's as much about war as anything else. It's the truly innocent that suffer. So in this case, it's Barry Keoghan's character who never has a chance. It's Jenny who is killed by accident, and that's like the only thing that Brenden Gleeson is clearly genuinely remorseful about. Yeah, and that's what drives Colin Farrell to say, I'm going to burn your house down, even if you're in it.
Yeah.
Make sure your dog's not there.
Right.
Because they're innocent, and the innocent get hurt anyway. Even if you say, I'm doing this to protect the innocent or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're going to get hurt anyway. Yeah. And that the last thing in the movie, when he goes, thanks for taking care of my dog, and Colin Farrell says, anytime, because it's not going to change. Right. Like the Irish Civil War, like any war, like anything else, the men are going to keep doing what they're doing, and the innocent are going to keep suffering. And I spent the whole last part of the movie being genuinely relieved that the dog was going to be okay, because Jenny dying was so heartbreaking.
I was wondering if you were going to respond to the dead animals, and I thought the dog might die too.
Yeah,
I know you were.
The fact is that the dog is alive because one person said, it's important to protect the innocent, but the innocent had already died. Two other innocents already died. That's who the Banshee predicted would die. Those were the two graves.
Yeah. Chris, I'd like to hear a little more from you.
No, but seriously, the thing for me was kind of and when I say I kind of did approach this, as a comedy, obviously Pitch Black, right? It's one of those things where you can't help but, like, when you see Jenny dead, you just are like, oh my God, how could it get any worse? And it kind of, it elicits that response where you almost laugh at something that's horrible,
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I felt. But I will say that I did really, the one piece that that gives you a little bit of hope is that the sister says, you're my brother, I love you, but I'm not going to stay here and drown with you. You know what? I'm going to take this opportunity, and I'm going to go to the mainland, and I'm going to get this job. It was at a library or a bookstore or something, and I'm going to get out. I'm not. Good luck. I hope things go well. Maybe I'll see you at Christmas or Easter or whatever. But and that was kind of the one part that it was like she was this person who was willing to take that risk to kind of leave and to do that, and we hope that she's rewarded for that.
She tried to get him to leave too, though.
She did.
I did the job here. Yeah.
She was like, why would you stay? And that's all he knew, and to some extent that's all he was ever gonna know, and
that's all he wanted.
Yeah, and what kind of the saddest part is that with the kid gone, with Jenny gone, with his friend gone, he is going to turn into like the old mean man of the island. That's what's going to happen. He is going to go from being this nice guy, and he does have that great little bit where he's talking about, being nice now and how that matters and how it's. I mean, like you said before, Drew, he can't really express it in the way that he wants to, but he is saying, it matters that you're a good person, and what the irony is that in the end, he won't be. No one's going to remember that guy. 20 years from now, he's going to be the bitter old guy that lives out there that burned his friend's house down, which
with him in it.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is one of those interesting things, and it is kind of, but at the same time, from Brenden Gleeson's perspective, I get how he's like, I'm old, I'm dying. I not necessarily because he's got something that he's dying. He sees
because we're all dying. Yeah.
Right. That there's fewer days ahead than there are behind, kind of thing. And he decides that he doesn't want to spend time hearing about Jenny's shit anymore. He doesn't want to hear that. So I kind of understand where he's coming from. I mean, you'd think maybe he could give, what's his name, like a day a week, he could have cut back maybe, but he just decided that he had wasted too much time and that he wasn't going to waste another minute. And I feel for him too. I feel that like he's stuck in this weird situation where there's all this societal pressure.
I mean, here's the thing, but the reality is, right? My friend and Sean's friend who ghosted us, I don't live on an island with 8 people where I'm going to see that guy every single day. I mean, that would drive me insane. The insanity of what you just did, and the fact that I see you every day and I walk by you every day. that would drive anybody nuts. And the way the sister protected him in the bar, the way she dressed down, the mistake he made about when Mozart was just brilliant. That actress, who I didn't know this, but now I know she was in Better Call Saul. She played Mike's daughter-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was unbelievable. I just, and her sympathy and you're frustrated for her because that she's stayed on the island and she hasn't been able to meet anybody, and everybody's in her business, and that old lady in the mailbox place is giving her crap, and I just found her to be an amazing character, and the woman played it. She played it beautifully. But I mean, if you just look at the reality of what Colin Farrell's character was dealing with, it would drive anybody batty.
Sure.
I mean, Brenden Gleeson was batty. Anybody that cuts off all his fingers, there's something wrong with. There's just something.
Well, yeah,
wrong.
he was clearly unwell before that. That's the thing. Like even Colin Farrell, even after his sister leaves, he writes her that letter. It was so upsetting, talking about how everything is wonderful and he loves having Jenny in the house when we know already Jenny is already dead, and he's still trying to protect his sister, to say go and do what you're going to do. I love you, and I don't need to tell you the truth.
He's a nice guy.
He's a sweet guy. He's a sweet, simple guy, and that's not a bad thing. No. But it makes him both vulnerable and then extreme. And that line where the priest says to Brenden Gleeson, "Do you think God gives a damn about miniature donkeys?" And Brenden Gleeson's like, "I don't," and I think that's where it all went wrong. And that's kind of the entire position of Colin Farrell's innocent character. He's not perfect. Everybody made it clear when he's drunk, he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
But they know that's not really him.
Right.
And he's not drunk all the time. So, you can be more than one thing. But if what you are is nice, that the fact that that's not valued is really tragic. Never mind the extent of the insanity of the tragedy in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, of course, I'm thinking about my friend, but it's sort of like, I'm sure everyone's gone through this, if not with a friend, just a friend. It's like a romantic partner or something, and you're like, well, maybe if I go and say this,
sure,
that'll change. Of course, I was always the guy who could take no for an answer, but still, you're always thinking, well, what if I said that? And that's why Colin Farrell couldn't stop himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the one guy said, oh, he admired the way you did that. He's like, oh, I just have to be forceful.
Right. I have to be mean. He gets the wrong message. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. And this, to me, that's the most complicated scene. He essentially goes, he kicks down Brendan Fraser's door. Brandon Fraser. Now, Gleeson.
Yeah. Tarzan.
Just call him Colm. His name is Colm.
Yeah. And he says, it's like, oh, you finished your song. And it seems like they're having a genuine conversation. And it doesn't seem like he's upset that he's there, because it seems like he was dancing with his dog. He's happy. You get the sense he wanted to tell someone that he completed it.
Right.
But it doesn't seem to go wrong until Colin Farrell's like, okay, well, I'll be by tomorrow.
Right.
And
that's when the dog drags his shears
he gave
out.
him a gift and says, okay, you can come in, you can celebrate with me today. I did this. But then, hey, back off. And then when he leaves with the intention of like, hey, we're back to normal, that's, it just seems, do you get the sense, that's what I want to know, do you guys get the sense that he was initially okay talking to him in that scene?
No.
You don't get that at all?
No,
I think he was being kind to him for a minute.
Yes, but
do you think had he left without saying, okay, I'll be by tomorrow at 2 or whatever he said?
Maybe if he had just come in and walked out and not said that, because as you remember that scene, the dog drags the shears out.
Yeah.
Because he knows, the dog knows that something's going to happen, and then he goes and grabs him, and that's the next,
And I think he realizes that he can't be kind to him. And he has to take this extreme step, because it's like, if I'm kind to him, it's just encouraging.
He's going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, this has overtones of what women probably deal with
for
when
guys
somebody's
like
stalking them, or anybody being stalked by somebody. For me, it's like, I mean, I hate to bring this up, but it's like a suicide without a note.
Yeah.
Right. So this guy,
It's a mystery.
he ghosted me, and I have no idea why, because in my mind, he should tell me why. But he the other character, he doesn't want to tell me why. He just wants me to get away. But you're trying to figure it out because you're like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
Right.
It's this
But
movie.
it's even worse than that, because when he does tell Colin Farrell, this is why we can't be friends.
It doesn't.
Colin Farrell he doesn't get it. He's like, that doesn't make sense. We've been friends for having a chat and a beer for decades.
He and I differ in that point. And the other point I want to make is the reason it affected me is, I know you guys say just to be nice is enough, but I'm with Brenden Gleeson's character. I want to be remembered. I can remember as a second grader thinking, if I die, nobody's going to remember who I am. I want people to remember who I am. Now, now I'm on YouTube all over the place. No one's ever gonna
obviously. Yeah, now you're famous. But,
right.
well, keep in mind that it matters what you're remembered
levels.
for.
What's
it
that?
matters what you're remembered for.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody on that island is going to forget Brenden Gleeson as the guy who cut his fingers off and threw them at his old friend's door. And nobody's going to forget, like you said, Colin Farrell will be the old man who burned his friend out of his house after his friend accidentally killed his donkey with his fingers.
Right.
So they are definitely going to be remembered, but it matters.
Be writing poems
on that island, but not outside the island.
Right.
Mozart
but it
was
matters.
known,
like, it matters
Mozart's
what your
known.
goal is.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's, So.
Well, if you read my memoir, because I had a near-death experience, 2011, I wrote a memoir, but it's also how I looked at life after I died. It's sort of like, people aren't going to remember you. I mean, people remember Alexander the Great. It's been 2,400 years. But, there were millions of people alive. How many of those others can you name? And it's the same. It's the same way. And it's like, even your great-great-grandchildren aren't going to know who you are. They might know your name, but they won't know you. To me, what my death experience taught me is that there is no immortality in this world. Even if your genes carry on, those genes don't know you. It's so, to me, it's a fool's thing. It's like, how are you going to care if, it'd be nice to write an immortal song, but, they're not going to know you. They may remember this melody and you're gone. It's sort of like, I guess I'm coming down on the side of anti-legacy, but here I am writing books and movies and everything like you and videos. So I'm obviously trying to do something, but
but we know, I know in the long run, 100 years from now, nobody's going to know, none of this matters. None of this matters. None of this. That's what this movie kind of just, just points it out. That's why John.
It matters now. That's right.
Right. Everything matters now. What you do now is what matters.
And sure, we might not be Mozart or Alexander the Great or somebody who's truly going to transcend history in some ways, but I think we all hope that some people watch this and they at least get some amusement out of it, and maybe it makes them think about it, or maybe they try a movie that they like because we talked about it or something. And that's part of the reason we do it. Mostly we just like to talk to one another, I think.
Yeah, we like to look at ourselves.
But, in truth, but I mean, I think that it does matter the way that I personally tend to fall on the side of Colin Farrell, and maybe that's because I'm getting older and I realize I'm not going to write a great novel or make a great movie that is going to be remembered for hundreds of years, or at least, let me rephrase, the chances of that happening are getting smaller and smaller every day that goes by, right? But so maybe that's why I fall on the Colin Farrell side a little bit, but so yeah, I mean, I definitely come down on his side of things if I had to choose,
Yeah, if I'm picking one of those two guys, it's Colin Farrell. I mean, I don't want to be cutting my hand off, and there's no, and I agree.
Plus he had a friend in Jenny, and Jenny is a wonderful friend.
Yeah. So, whoa. Okay.
I like how he turned as soon as his sister left, he turned the house into the barn. Let all the animals in.
Right. All right. Let's rate this one. Start with Sean.
Well, the film really depressed the hell out of me. And, I didn't enjoy watching it, though I appreciated it. And in retrospect, I liked it better than I did while I was watching it. So I'm going to say Yippee-Ki-Yay.
Okay. Chris.
I'm going to go with Yippee-Ki-Yay as well. Not like a happy comedy of any sort, but I think it's a challenging movie, and I think it's worth seeing.
Yeah. John?
Yippee-Ki-Yay. Didn't get it. Didn't want to see it again. Don't want to talk about it.
Very depressing. Hit me in many different ways. I still say Yippee-Ki-Yay. I thought it was a beautiful film. The clothing alone, the sweaters those people wore,
Oh,
the jackets.
God, those sweaters are great.
Just holy cow. I mean, just beautiful. And Drew, I mean, you hadn't seen this before you.
No, I hadn't seen it, and I like doing that. I think that's been a fun way to experience these movies, as we've done sort of version, not just because RRR created an entirely new show, but I mean, I think this movie was certainly a Yippee-Ki-Yay. It's a towering, incredibly upsetting, muscular, real piece of storytelling, and I do not want to watch it again anytime soon. But I will want to watch it again because I think Martin McDonagh is that kind of storyteller. And it's one of those things that's just like, talk about legacies and things like that. I'm glad I love movies and I live now because there's so much incredible stuff happening. That doesn't mean there isn't a lot of crap too. I mean, nobody's going to want to remember Rise of Skywalker, but there's so many incredible things happening. And like these movies that are up for these awards just this year, I haven't even seen all of them, but even Triangle of Sadness, I didn't like it, but I'm glad I saw it, that sort of thing. And I thought this was really quite extraordinary.
Yeah, me too. Good. All right. Now, since Sean jumped in and we do What You Watch, I think I got to put the timer back on.
Yeah, the timer's fine.
Yeah, okay. We had Sean, when you weren't here, I was going to let the timer go, but I think we got to.
Okay.
Well, Chris wasn't here either. We were really going to just.
I know we had a hold. So who wants to go first? Sean, what'd you watch?
Okay. Well, I watched the film either recommended by someone or they just mentioned it, was The Menu.
Yeah, I recommended that one.
Yeah, and I saw it with Debbie and our friend Trish, who was once a guest here for Bride of Frankenstein, and they didn't like it, but I loved it. I loved the performances. I loved the idea of this chef as a cult leader, and the whole
no spoilers
thing. Debbie and I just finished up a script called Final Table. It all takes place as a poker table, and it's a death game, and that's sort of what this is. And I was really glad to see that in the poker movie it takes like 40 minutes for the first person to die, about 20 minutes, and this took a long time before it showed its hand, The Menu. But
I like what you just did there.
What?
Showed its hand.
Yeah.
You're mixing that up.
Poker film. Yeah. Good,
because they cut off the guy's finger. So it has double meaning.
Okay.
But I just thought it was great. I loved the internal logic as he was trying to figure out whether to kill Margot. And I love how, it's her spoilers. I loved the fact that the one guy knew it was going to happen and he still brought someone with him. It's just like that. I just loved the movie. I was very entertained by it.
Excellent. All right. I'm glad you watched it. I really like that film. All right, John.
Okay, so we talked about this earlier, but during the Super Bowl they had the Flash trailer. So I watched the complete trailer online. They didn't show it during the Super Bowl. Ezra Miller is kind of an awful human being, and I'm sorry that he's the one that they're going with as opposed to Henry Cavill, who's Superman. But having said that, the trailer looks pretty awesome. And for me, it looks really awesome because Michael Keaton's back as Batman. And that stuff looked great. So I am really looking forward to this. The other thing, and I have to be fair to certain people who work for a company that that it rhymes with Pisney. I've ragged on them pretty much because I think they've destroyed Star Wars. I think what they've done to that in Marvel too is just awful. But when they do something right, I have to give them credit. And if you are a Star Wars fan at all, there's a show called The Bad Batch, which is about clones. And it's kind of like the A-Team with clones that survived that order where the clones all turned on everybody. It's a really, really well done show. The animation is very unique. The characters are really wonderful, how they've developed over the 2 seasons. It's only been 2 seasons. And Disney, I know you guys don't agree with me, but they do a lot of woke stuff in all their programming. This is not like that. This is just good science fiction storytelling, which I absolutely love. And if you're a fan of Star Wars at all, I recommend the animated stuff. It's way better than the live action stuff, other than the original trilogy. So check it out if you get a chance. It's and I think the second season is only 8 episodes, and they're like 22 minutes apiece. So it's an easy watch if you want to watch the whole season. So that's what I watched.
Do you think they'll bring back Michael Keaton from Multiplicity for the Bad Batch? Do you think that would be a good,
maybe,
good match?
Maybe.
It'd be a good time.
Yeah.
All right, Chris.
Actually, it was kind of cool. My son took me to the movies, and he paid for the tickets and the whole 9 yards. I paid for the candy and stuff, but we went to see Avatar in The Way of Water in 3D. I figured, you know what? Why not throw an extra $25 on the $2 billion pile, right? And it's essentially it's quite literally just more of the same. Of Avatar. Now, here's the thing: is I didn't actually see the original Avatar in 3D. I didn't care for 3D at the time, and so we saw it here, and the 3D was pretty good. Still not as good as Hugo, by the way, which is the best 3D
was
movie
excellent.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 3 hours and 15 minutes long. It could have been 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I've often complained on this show about action scenes that go on too long, and this had a ton that went on way too long. And Drew, you had mentioned the different frame rate stuff. As far as I could tell, there was 3 different sets of frame: standard 24, at least a 48, and then something else that was way more. And it just got progressively weirder and jarring because it was literally in the same scenes it was cutting back and forth.
So it cuts back. That's crazy.
Yeah, it cuts back and forth. Like literally, I'm talking, and then all of a sudden this guy's moving, and it's just super sharp and but I will say this, to give credit where credit is due. They did a lot of like underwater stuff, obviously The Way of Water, and they did a lot of that. Not all of it, but a lot of that was done in like probably, I will say, like 48 frames a second. And that actually looked pretty good. I just to be totally honest here, that actually looked pretty good.
Did your son like it?
He loved it. He was super into it. My son loves the movies and stuff, but he was super into it. But it was more the same.
Yeah. I hated the first one.
Then I wouldn't see this one.
Yeah, I have no plan of
Although
seeing
the
that
3D at the beginning of the first one
was fantastic, but the movie was terrible.
Yeah.
I didn't like the movie at all.
But it's helping Pisney. So keep going to that movie.
Hey, listen, it's getting people to the movie. It's getting people into the theaters, which I love.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that does that, I am all for.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go see it.
I never thought of it this way, but I just read that, after Titanic, which was the highest grossing movie ever, James Cameron has never directed another movie that wasn't also the highest grossing movie ever, which is, it's incredible.
He is.
It's totally incredible.
Well, Drew, I know you're like me, waiting for the Pitch Black sequel.
Yes, they announced a 4th Riddick movie. I am super excited about that.
What did that?
I just wanted to throw that in because I just hated that Pitch Black.
All right, Drew, go ahead.
You and Kelly. So we watched a pretty heavy movie this week with the Banshees of Inisherin. So I decided, really 2 weeks. And there's a lot of other exciting stuff going on in the world that's awful, like in Turkey and other things. I said, I want to watch some stuff that's just fun. So I watched a movie called Bullet Train.
Oh, yeah.
That's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was kind of like, maybe it was going to be like a Tarantino type of thing.
That's
and
what
I realized it's a Guy Ritchie movie. Back when Guy Ritchie made really fun, snappy movies. And that is awesome. It's a Guy Ritchie movie by the John Wick guys. And I had a ball with it, and it was really fun. And some of the casting as to who ends up playing characters that you find the whole movie was great. And I will admit there's one character you basically only hear that character's voice. And I thought that's going to be the big villain behind everything. And it wasn't. And that was cool too. But Brad Pitt is just one of those, Ralph's sexual reaction aside, which I understand. He's so funny and and warm and believable, and like he's a terrible murdering person like everybody else in this movie, and you really root for him. So that was kind of a sweet, like that's a movie star thing, and I thought
Did 90% of his stunts in that movie.
I believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like John Wick. It's very physical, and the director David Leitch also did Atomic Blonde, the Charlize Theron movie, which I didn't love that movie, but it has great cast and some great action in it.
I do want to say about. Sorry,
go ahead. No,
I just want to say, I hope I'm
Ralph,
not
pause it.
that I think John saw this movie originally, and I was kind of poo-pooing it after my initial viewing. But that's a film that, as subsequent, because I just thought it was just like warmed over Quentin Tarantino at first, but it really did grow on me. So I just want to say,
fun.
you know, mainly because of Brett, the cast, and it was just nicely done.
Well, I thought that was fun, so thank you guys for recommending it.
Yeah.
The other thing I watched, Kelly actually watched the first episode without me and then said, you got to watch the show. We have been watching Sylvester Stallone in Tulsa King. That show is a party. I mean, there's some dark and violent gangster stuff in it, but it is so
He's
fun.
wonderful in it too.
He's amazing. I can't believe, and it's funny because he's an older guy. And his character's 75 years old, which is younger than he is. And it's just so much fun. And we've watched 7 of the 9 episodes. I'll finish it tonight or tomorrow, whatever. I mean, it's really, I absolutely recommend it. It's
good cast
for a gangster thing. It's quite lighthearted. It's very violent, and I think you guys would enjoy it. And it's just fun to see Stallone is still doing his thing, and it's entertaining. So
Deb and I almost started that last week, but
I recommend it. It's fun.
Cool. All right, here I go. All right. I went to the movie theater and saw Infinity Pool. Directed by Brenden Cronenberg. Now, I have a super crush on Maya Goth, and she hits all the right buttons on this one. It's an amazing, crazy film. I mean, I can't get into what it is because it would spoil it. But and Skarsgård, what's his name? The taller brother,
Alexander Skarsgård,
is fantastic as well. I mean, he's playing a part that most guys wouldn't try to tackle, and between him and Maya Goth, this thing is crazy.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and
is it a horror film? Is
but
it?
John, you didn't see Possessor by the same director? I'm surprised.
No, he also directed
it's David Cronenberg's son, right?
Cronenberg's son. So there's a little bit of body horror, other stuff going on in here. Now I heard there's an NC-17 version coming out, which I can't wait to see that version because this one was off the rails, but they had to pull back on a couple of things.
Yeah.
And then on Hulu, I watched this mini doc, three sections or 3 shows called Stolen Youth. Have you guys seen this? About a cult that got started at Sarah Lawrence College.
I was going to look at it.
Got started where?
At Sarah Lawrence College in New York. So these group of kids are in an apartment, and one of the fathers of the daughter ends up living with them for a while and ends up becoming a cult leader to like 6 or 7 of these people.
What's it called?
He's a monster.
It's called Stolen Youth.
Okay.
And the guy is a monster.
That's crazy.
And he's in, you watch the doc. I had binged it. She put it on, Maria put it on yesterday, and I wouldn't let her shut off the last 2 I had. And I was late for the Super Bowl because I wanted to finish these 3. It's an amazing.
They're going to have a Super Bowl every year. This was brand new. I get it. It's Stolen Youth. It's called Stolen Youth. Take a look at it. The guy ruined so many lives and it affected so many people. It's insane. And he has a history with a lot of
Sarah Lawrence would have this cult there. You wouldn't think it's Sarah Lawrence.
They kind of denied that it happened there. They said they didn't hear any reports about it, and he had a connection with Rudy Giuliani and Bernie Kowick, the guy who ended up going to jail. He had a relationship with a lot of New York people. Bernie Kerry. Yeah. And then I have a question for Drew. I've just started watching The Last of Us on HBO Max.
Yes.
Our movie that we reviewed, The Girl with the Gifts.
Yep.
Are those 2 things based on the same?
They're not
material?
based on the same thing. The Girl with All the Gifts is also about cordyceps zombie outbreak, and that was one of those things like Kick-Ass where they wrote the novel and did the movie at the same time.
Okay.
And then The Last of Us is a PlayStation game. I've never played it. It's supposed to be
popular
epic,
video game.
fantastic video game.
Yep.
And I haven't watched the show, although I want to because it's supposed to be good. But the notion of the cordyceps fungus in reality appears to invade an ant and take over its body and control it. That's the premise. So they are based on the same kind of zombie.
Same idea.
But as far as I know, they're not based on any shared actual.
Yeah, I knew
game
one was based
things.
on a video game. I wasn't sure if the
that's
if
the last
girl
of Us,
with
yeah.
the gifts was, but
The Girl with All the Gifts is based
A lot
on
of
the
people
book.
watching it too.
yeah,
that's a hit.
the vibe I'm getting. I have friends telling me to watch it, so I started watching it. To me, it's the
Walking Dead.
It's like
Mhm.
okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Same thing. And actually,
Also,
you
The
were
Girl with
talking-
All the Gifts is a movie, so
Yeah.
it's like if you dig it, it's only a couple of hours.
And
Walking
who's
Dead
in it?
went on
Glenn
for
Close is in
900
that
years.
one. There's a couple other people too.
Yeah.
That's a fun movie. That's on our MovieStrange.
Yes,
YouTube
available on
channel
Movie
as well.
Strange. Yes.
All right,
I
so-
recommend
Maybe it should be brought over here so that we could watch it here too.
We can. We'll put it in the link below.
Yeah, we'll do that. The thing about
Put it
it,
on
we
the Money
talked about it
Channel.
earlier about predicting what's going to happen in a film. I'm definitely predicting what's happening in this one. You can you just see things happening that you've seen over and over, but it's getting rave reviews. People love it, and Pasquale's getting.
I enjoy it. I've seen most.
Pedro is.
Yeah,
You've
he's
seen it?
awesome.
Debbie didn't. It's funny. Debbie was watching, and it's like she had the same reactions to as Walking Dead. Okay, they're attacked by zombies. I get it.
Same idea. Same
that's
idea.
it.
Anyway, getting great reviews. People love it.
But I enjoy it more.
All right, so that's it. We don't have to spin the wheel because Debbie was the last one. So, Sean, when you talk to Debbie,
Who's the last
let
of
her
us?
know that she is the last of us that needs to pick a film in this round.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay, I'll tell her.
All right. So let her know if she wants to do it. She should let us know. Otherwise, please, everybody, hit the subscribe,
Pound
like
it.
it.
Oh.
John, just
On the like button, subscribe,
fisting
and
me, Sean.
share it. Share it. We get about 180 views on this particular show. We're trying to get over that 200 threshold.
Right.
Only the latest one was Once Upon a Time in the West, but we just hover right around 180.
Well, this is an
190.
Oscar-nominated film, so I think we'll get some views.
Well, I'm
Well,
looking forward to
Mr.
when
Deeds
Chris
just broke
gets to
100.
pick when Chris gets to pick a current movie after
Yes.
getting shut down.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that, Chris, because we don't hear enough from you. That's what that's how I feel.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Edward G. Robinson. Yeah. See, yeah.
all right, everybody. Thanks for
People
doing this.
like your Telugu accent.
Yeah.
So, guys, enjoy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why
not
would
you,
you
Ralph.
say-
Not you.
Nope.
Not you. I hate
That's
no.
a Hallmark thing. It's a Hallmark conspiracy.
That's why you're Combe. You're not Podrick.
That's right.
You are definitely Combe.
Just remember.
Good
who
luck
I
Now
am.
I know why
fingering.
that guy ghosted you.
Exactly.
Probably wanted to celebrate Valentine's.
I don't know
Day.
why he goes to me, but you do. So
Well, he responds to my text, not yours.
yours. So funny. That's great. All right.
All right, guys.
Put me right back in that
We gotta
mode.
get
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Everybody have a good
Bye-bye.
week.
See you soon.
See you soon.